I guess it just kind of puts into perspective the gains that you get, day after day after day. Like if, you put in so much work, but then you're finally able to go out and you can go like camping with your family, or you can go take this vacation, or you can go experience the world in this one way or the other. And it's all because just for these few months, you put in the extra work where you could have just gone home and sat back and just done nothing.
Welcome back, everybody, to Bluntly Bears. My name is Alex. I am your host here, and today I am joined by my good friend Brad Metz.
What's up?
Brad, it's good to have you, man.
Good to be here, dude.
All the way down here from Chehalis, Washington. Brad is a very special guest for me here. I've known him for just over 2 years now. We've basically started and came up the ranks together at the company we're currently at. But just to get the ball rolling, Brad, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are as a person and kind of what you do for work?
Who I am as a person, I am a guy about life. I mean, in general, it's about living the best you can, and in doing that and being true to myself, I found myself over in Washington. It's interesting. When we first met, like, I had no idea where we would be in 2 years from now. I mean, 2 years from where we met. Like, I was just earlier today, I was thinking about our orientation being in, like, the second floor in, what do they call that? What did they call that room?
Was it Broadway?
No, it was.
No, Broadway was upstairs. Ah, man, I don't remember.
No, there was a strange name for it.
There was a weird name for that.
But I remember we went to it every single time. And it may come back to me, but just thinking about, like, all of the people in that room, and, like, I don't know what it was, but, like, immediately it was just gravitated. Like, I remember we were going up the elevator one day and we just started, like, striking it up. And we were just like, dude, nice watch. I'm like, yeah.
Your watch. I remember that.
I'm like, yeah, dude, this is a Stour watch. I bought it for like $50 off the internet one day. I liked it because of the mechanics in it, but
no, dude, I was always trying to be. I always had this inner piece of me that wanted to be the best in my class, and I saw you. I was like, crap, dude. This guy is dressed super nice. He has a nice watch. He's like memorizing all this crap, and I really felt like I had competition. So like, keep your enemies closer, right?
Was I trying too hard?
I think I felt like that at first. Yeah, I felt like you were at first, and I was all about keeping my enemies closer. So I was trying to make friends,
No, that was I remember the entire upcoming of all of that, and like, it was really cool to be able to have, like, I think a lot of our success, like, if we're kicking this off, like, in business, a lot of our success was due to us being so intercompetitive.
Yeah.
Like, the entire time, right? Like, we were always just like competing with each other, and
in a healthy way, right? Like, it wasn't toxic.
100%. No, yeah, it was always just like, and you're right, 100%. The competition was more of like, what are you doing right, and like, how can we supersede each other, and like, when we're doing something better, it's just like, what did you do? And I don't know, it was a super cool environment to just be kind of working together, and have a friend as well as a competitor. I think that's a very distinct difference, because a lot of the times you're just like, you feel like you're, trying to keep up with the pack.
Yeah.
But if you've got someone that you're connecting with and that you can bounce ideas off of each other, that was, I don't know, it was super cool. But yeah, I mean, like, as me as a person, like, I've always been about, be true to yourself, live your life, figure out exactly what you want to do, and figure out a way to pursue it. And so when I found myself at Zoom Info, that it was a completely new opportunity. In the past, I'd been.
Yeah, how did you get there? How did you find Zoom Info?
No, yeah, it's funny. So I worked at a recruiting company for 10 years. Like, we just did recruiting. We recruited ophthalmology, optometry, optical, right? So we were doing doctors, eyewear designers, eyewear representatives, and just I loved it. And it was cool to be a part of an organization that was, changing people's lives. But I just wasn't exactly fulfilling the way that I wanted it to be. There were some other things that, we can get into the weeds about. But I basically decided like I was going to go find a new career path. And so sales somehow, I think I was like on Facebook or something, and like some ad came up and was like, oh, be an SDR. And so eventually I just got into the world of sales and SaaS. And it was funny when I started, I was in Orlando.
Yeah.
So I'd lived in Orlando my entire life. I met my wife in Orlando before we became married. And so just one day wanted to up and change everything. And so I found ZoomInfo just happenstance. They were some company that, was a SaaS company. They had some rec open, I think. I think they were just hiring at the time for a couple SDRs. And being in Orlando, I didn't think I had much of a chance. But what I did is I got with my dad. He's a videographer. He does a ton of short films, different videos like that. And so he had me over and we did this video composition where I basically pitched myself.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that was with your dad. Yeah.
Did you see that video though?
You told me about it. I've not seen it now.
You haven't? All right. Well, I'll send it over to you and maybe you can cut it in there.
No, that'd be cool. Yeah.
But it was basically this video. It was a Star Wars theme.
Okay.
So it's the same time The Mandalorian had launched. Everyone's super into Star Wars.
Right.
And so it was the Star Wars theme. And it was the theme song, but instead of rolling out like, The Empire Strikes Back and all the scrolling text, right? It was just talking about me breaking into the SDR role. You're just thinking about that now. Just like so much energy went into landing a role as an SDR. But I put together this video. My dad helped me splice it together and put together a talk track and sent it over to the hiring managers. Like literally just sent over a cold email to the hiring managers, and they're like, "Yeah, let's get an interview." And that was it. Got an interview. It was great. They clearly hired me, and my wife and I, we packed 2 cats and a dog.
That's right.
Into a car, and we drove cross country.
It was crazy. I remember when, like, during orientation and meeting everyone, we also had the folks from Philly fly out for the orientation. And before ZoomInfo, I don't think I had I had jobs. I was working retail, and a lot of it was just, I was kind of working my way up retail. When I started at ZoomInfo, I still remember telling my brother, I was like, dude, I think this is like a real career thing. Like, there's a guy that moved from Florida to do this job. There's people that are flying in from freaking Philadelphia to do this job. And I somehow stumbled upon this thing. Like, I think this is a real thing. I like the fact that you moved your whole life to do this job. I was like, how did I get this?
Dude, I felt the same, and I still feel the same way. Like, I think sales is such a crazy career path where you can come from nothing, and the sheer tenacity and like perseverance and will to make things happen make you successful.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I can attribute it to anything else, because there's so much new things that gets thrown at you literally day after day. Like, whether it's a new product or a new situation, like, you're constantly having to evolve. And so it's kind of interesting that like the personality type that a sales career takes, and the fact that you can do it from nothing. You can come from just being this tenacious, anything, whether you're a car salesman or a mattress. Like, one of our most successful reps spent years as a mattress salesman.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I think and one of the things that brought me here was that I wanted to just be able to not have to worry about, you know, life in general. Like I didn't want to have to worry about like where, you know, the paycheck was coming from.
Yeah.
I wanted to be very in control of my destiny. And like we've got that. Like, look, man, look at this. This is hard. This is hard work. Like, just think of where we started.
It's crazy that it's only been 2 years. I mean, 2 years is a long time, but it's only been 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, the person I was going into that orientation, like wide-eyed, looking at that, whatever that office built or whatever that conference room was.
Like, they can put whiteboards on a wall. What?
I mean, I went from working at Bank of America where it was so outdated that half of our building was out of use and it was just blocked off with a little wall. We still use cash registers from like the 1990s. To go from that to ZoomInfo, it was a game changer, man. And yeah, like you said, it's starting at 0 and the end number is whatever you make it. And that was what was really exciting for me going into it.
And I talk to new reps all the time who are just like, what's the path? You know, like you've you know, whether it's you or whether it's Alex or whether it's anybody else, like you guys have gone from SDR to AE and like, what's the path? And it's just like, do it, man. Just like put your nose to the grindstone, and it might take a year or two, but the amount of effort that you put in that year or two, it translates into so many gains.
Yeah.
Like you think about if you just take a year, right, and put in so much hard work and effort and energy, it can get you so far ahead where to progress that much in any other kind of role or any other career path would have just taken so much more energy and effort.
No, I think that's exactly what attracted me to this role. There's no other role I've ever worked at, I think I was at 3 or 4 other companies before ZoomInfo. There's no other role that literally what you put in is what you get out. There's no other role like that. There's no other career path like that. From my perspective, maybe there are, but that's what really attracted me. And just the opportunity to grow as much as you give it, was really cool. So that was a big thing. When you started though, I'm curious, when you started and, you'd learn about the whole SDR, the AE thing, did you know like from day one, like AE was where you're going to land?
No, not at all. So like, as much as I would love to take credit for all of it, and I do, like I put in a lot of hard work to get here. It was kind of weird. I started with this career progression program.
That's right.
Yeah. And not to get too far into the weeds on that because it's kind of a interesting subject. We can elaborate on it later if you want to, but that's what got me the job. I would not have gotten the job without that. Like, I'll just say that. But like, there's a lot of, there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with going in like I signed up like for an ISA program.
ISA?
Yeah. So it's an income share agreement.
Oh.
So basically I signed an agreement where I did this sort of preparation program, and in return for that, they got a share of my income for a certain amount of time.
I never knew that.
Yeah. Well, I bought out that program like a few months in. They ended up I just played like a flat fee to kind of buy it out. But that's what got me the job. And I had no idea that I was going to be moving into AE. It was just like SDR, go make, 75 to 100K, go sell some stuff, go book some meetings. Right. But then once I, hit the role and started seeing my colleagues and started seeing the progression path within ZoomInfo, like that's what really sort of like got the flame going. Like that's what really got me to put my nose to the grindstone. Like there was probably a few months where like literally all I did was Zoom info, like just prospected.
100%.
Yeah. Just like there was, that month where we set the inbound, record, and then we moved over to outbound.
Yes.
And there was the outbound complete record.
Yes.
And then I realized like, okay, there's an actual career path here. Like it's not just like some job I moved across the country for. Like I knew my wife is sitting over there just like listening to us, but like when we moved, like it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make 6 figures in a year. Had no idea, man. But then once that presented itself, it's like, okay, like there's literally a lifetime in front of us.
Yeah. I 100% same boat. Like I still remember when I was still like, how am I going to figure out this SDR thing? And then we have our managers doing onboarding, talking about like, yeah, in 6 to 12 months, you're going to work your way up to be an AE and you can making 6 figures. And I'm like, that's just like, no, that's not a thing. Like, that's not a thing normal people do. Like
maybe 1 out of the 50 of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, maybe I'll make 50K this year. Like maybe that's the life that I'm going to get. And it's just crazy how much.
Because you came from a banking role.
Yeah, I came from a banking role making like $18 an hour, I think. And I was like, and that's the thing, man. I still remember, growing up and all that, like you see bankers and they're all wearing their suits and their ties and and you just see all this status and you're like, oh, that's like such a high prestige job. And then you get it and you're like, oh, that's how much we make here.
Like, oh, wait a minute.
Like, why am I telling people with like 6 figures in the bank what to do with their money when I don't have $1,000 in the bank, And then you move into this and you're like, wait, so technically, like status wise, this seems like it's not there, but somehow, income wise, it doesn't match up. It was really interesting.
Yeah. And my mom's been a banker forever. Right. And so, I was just thinking the same exact thing.
Yeah. No, it's a crazy, crazy difference. For those out there that don't know, can you tell us about your current role as an AE and what you do?
Yeah. So, in Zoom Info specifically, as an AE, like
account executive.
Yeah, as account executive, the job is to traditionally close business, right? So whether you're sourcing it yourself, whether you're getting it from reps that you have on your team that you work with, the job is to get people excited about what you do and the fact that you can help them. And so my job is essentially having conversations with prospects that don't know all about what they're doing with their business.
Accurate, yes.
Like at the end of the day, I am a teacher in a 5th grade classroom.
Yes.
And I have to teach people that own actual businesses how to make money. And so like teach them how to sell. I have to teach sales managers how to manage their teams. But at the end of all of this, it's essentially painting the picture of where we can help them be in a year, 2 year, 3 years time.
Yeah.
Many business owners have goals of exiting, of retiring early, of doing all this. They want to launch this business so that they can go spend time with their family. They're painted this picture of like business ownership is just this entrepreneurial dream. But at the end of the day, they're stuck selling their own services. They're stuck managing their teams. They're stuck doing this, that, and the other, when like a simple investment in technology can alleviate all of the troubles that they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And so my job is essentially just to get them excited about making money. Like we sell a product, but we also sell a dream. right? Like we sell
Right.
we sell the dream of being able to change the world in whatever way that you see fit, right? Like if you're selling a sustainability product, you can reach out to every single company in the world and tell them about the sustainability product that you've got. Or you can focus strategically on the ones that really have initiatives around sustainability. And so as an account executive specifically for Zoom Info, that's what it's about. But at the end of the day, it's about highlighting a pain point and then being able to, attribute your solution to that pain point.
Yeah. It's funny because whenever like family or friends on my side, like they hear about, oh, you're in sales, like, oh, so you're that annoying guy that like tries to like, pressure me into doing something or all that. Like,
Yep.
well, I was going to say none of what you described is that, but it sounds like you missed something there. There's so much more that goes into it, especially on the business to business side. I mean, I sort of did sales, at the bank. I had to sell credit cards and stuff, and it was on the business to consumer side. And some of that was just being that annoying guy that tries to bring stuff up. And sales is always being that annoying guy and not caring about being that annoying guy in some sort of situations. But it's so much more involved and so much more consultative.
When you've got something to provide, right? Like,
yeah,
if you're cold calling somebody, you tell them it's a cold call, but that you can help them with every pain point that they've got.
There's a perception out there, though.
Yeah, 100%.
Like there's just this perception of if you cold call someone, you're probably calling from a call center to tell them about car insurance or something like that. Like, and people put their guard on right away.
Yeah, but isn't that what you wish your salespeople did? Like, isn't that the modality you wish you operated in? Don't you wish that you could break through that noise and tell people, even though they think you're annoying, you still have something valuable to provide? That's what sales is about showing people that, like, what you have is worth talking about.
Yeah.
It's the conversation that matters. Like, that's the first step. When you think about it, when we were SDRs, it's all about the conversation. If we could just get them into that conversation, it increased the chances of us getting that deal so much.
Yep.
And that's why an SDR is so important, because you think about these specialized roles. You have an account executive who's focused on highlighting pain points, presenting the solution to those, and then finally figuring out the next step in the path to actually winning that business. The SDR is the gateway to that conversation. Without the
sales
SDR,
development rep.
Yeah, the sales development rep, the person that's making those cold calls, that's sending out those cold emails, and then actually developing those relationships. Whether you call them a BDR, an SDR, an XDR, a cold caller, it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
You're that entry point to the entire business conversation. Like, if you think about full cycle account executives, they are not as successful as segmented account executives and sales development representatives, because the account executives can focus on closing that business, while the sales development representatives are actually like sourcing that business and really breaking through the main objective.
Yeah, it's like what you said about a lot of these business owners that come to us that try to do a million things at once. You can to an extent, and at some points when you're building the business, you have to, but it's never going to be as good as when you're specializing and you're really good at one thing instead of being decent at multiple things.
Yep.
Right. So that's a really good point. It'd be interesting to hear for the folks out there, how did you get into the account executive role? What was the process like for you?
A lot of hard work. That's it. Like, in a short amount of time, put in a lot of hard work, show that you want it. That's it. you just have to put in the effort and the energy. It's all about effort. You can learn. Companies nowadays, they're hiring not on tangible skills, but intangibles, right? Like your ability to learn,
Right.
your ability to persevere. How tenacious are you? I think my biggest skill, I know it's not the question you asked, I think my biggest skill that attributed the most to my development was my ability to adapt and learn how to succeed no matter what the environment is.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what's going on. You just need to figure out a way to do it better than 90% of the people. Go out and hit up who's being successful, right? Learn from them. Learn about what works and what doesn't. Like, I don't think it's there's no recipe to success other than hard work, dedication. That's it, man.
Yeah, it sounds like cliches, but cliches are cliches for a reason, right? It's actually what works.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, exactly. I think you can follow directions and you can follow the processes and maybe you'll come ahead, but that's no comparison to going above and beyond and actually reaching and figuring out how can I get ahead of everybody that's next to me. Like when we were all in a cohort,
Yeah.
I was hitting up every senior SDR, right? Every senior rep and figuring out what are they doing different. I would bring them over when we were in the office. I would bring them over to my desk and I would have them just sit there and I would run through talk tracks with them.
Yeah, that's why you were the annoying one, man. You were just doing so much more. You're making all of us look worse.
That's it though. That's it. I think it's putting in that effort and don't send this to my sales managers, but it pays off at the end. You have a chance to take the foot off the gas. You keep your foot on the gas at the right times.
Yeah.
And you take your foot off the gas at certain times. Think about an F1 racer, right?
Formula One. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
They're speeding down the straightaways, but then they're dialing it back when they start to turn. And they're strategically moving around the corners. And then once they get the straightaway, they're going, right? And they have a strategy about when to put the pedal to the metal and when to dial it back a little bit. I think it's a good parallelism to, breaking through in a career. You have to put that work in up front. You have to show that you've got what it takes. You have to show that you're willing to go above and beyond what everybody else is willing to do. But that affords you the ability to dial it back a little bit once you've, sort of pushed into that role, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's just putting in the work now to reap the benefits later. It's just the hard part is so many people give up before the reaping of benefits. And it's hard to see that. I mean, it's hard. It's hard when, man, I remember when we were first starting, I was always trying to be the first one there. Maybe not always the first one there, but early there, last to leave, working the late hours, volunteering for weekends, 10-hour shifts.
Yep.
And making a fraction of what we are now. But in back then, it's not like you're going to get to it's not like you're going to get here guaranteed.
Yeah.
You just do what you have to.
Yeah.
You just do what you can. And when you're in the trenches, it's hard to see above, but
that's a very good point. I think Brian Vital, our manager, our SDR VP, said I don't know the verbatim quote, but it stuck with me. It really resonated. The work that you put in now.
Yeah, I remember that.
The hard work that you put in now, put it in now. Because it's going to pay off later.
I always thought that was BS. I always thought that was just... Dude, I worked at so many companies before that where they always talk about that stuff, and it never actually pays off. How many times have you been told that your hard work is going to pay off and it never does? And then I heard that again and I was like, okay, yeah, this is just that motivational speech where he's trying to get us riled up.
But at least you're right. You have to find yourself at the right company. You have to make sure that you're getting rewarded for the work that you put in. Like you gotta stick up for yourself too. Like you put in that hard work. You also have to recognize that you've put in the hard work.
Yeah.
And that it has to be recognized in some way. And if you're not getting recognized, and if you're not getting those incremental promotions every 2 to 3 months, despite being one of the best performers in the organization, that's when the red flags start to raise.
Yeah. And that was my problem before. Like the companies I worked with before were like, I feel like what a good portion of companies out there are. They try to get away as long as they can with paying you as little as they can, with giving you as little as they can.
Yep.
And like you said, that's a major red flag right there.
Yeah. Yeah. If you your performance should justify, I don't know, raise is a weird word, but it should justify recognition and, just gradual progression throughout the company.
Yeah, that's the word too.
No matter what your goal is, if you want to be a manager, like I think one of the main messages is you're worth a lot. Find the right company.
Yes. Because
you'll quickly know whether or not a company recognizes you. And when they do, you can move up so quickly. Like 3 to 6 months, you can reach roles that you never even dreamed of if you put the right work in. There's examples even within our company of people that join, and then in 2 to 3 months time, they're moving into manager roles because they put in the effort. They want to understand what success looks like. They reach out to the successful reps. They reach out to the managers. They reach out to our CEO.
Yeah.
Like they put the time in.
And they make it clear that what their goal is.
Exactly. Communication. Clarity is key.
Yeah.
Not only with your prospects, but with your managers.
Yes.
Like the clarity means this is what I want. This is my goal. This is what I'm going to do to get there. And I expect that sort of recognition. If that's not there, we're not a great fit. So it is really important to understand that if you've been in a role for months or years and you haven't hit the progression that you want to, you're valued elsewhere, and you should look for another.
100%.
You should look for a company that recognizes that.
100%. Not to beat the dead horse with the bank job I had before, but that was my biggest strife there. Like. When I got hired, they said, hey, you put in the work, you learn the ropes. Within 6 to 12 months, you're going to be, or 6 to 9 months, they told me, you're going to be an assistant manager. Like you're going to rise up the ranks here, all this stuff. And I did. I was, in the top of my district. I was putting in the work, and I kept asking for, what do I do to get further? And I kept saying, hold off. I kept hearing, hold off. I kept getting promises of raises, and it took me, I think, 5 months. My manager said, hey, you deserve a raise. You're going to get a raise. And I waited for 5 months. I kept asking her, hey, have you heard any updates? And she's like, yeah, we're getting with corporate. We're going to figure it out for you. 5 months. And then eventually, I think I worked there 11 months. I was like, okay, I didn't get the raise. I didn't get the promotion they promised when I first started here. This is it. I'm looking elsewhere. The day I put in my notice to go to ZoomInfo, I got the raise. And the next day, the district manager was talking to me about promotion options. And how is that a good environment for companies? Like I said, people try to get away with paying you as little as possible, with putting you as low as possible for the longest time in a lot of companies. And that's a red flag. Like you said, if you're a top performer, you're worth more elsewhere if you're not getting the opportunities to move forward where you are today.
And even if you feel like you're at a great company, it's important to recognize what you're worth and use that. And even if you love a company, it's important to understand your worth. And, for those that are out there, even when you progress, as you start to progress, if you love the company or not, know that every month, every day, every week that you get better, you're worth more, right? Like, we're expected to go through so much progression and learning initiatives as professionals at ZoomInfo. And as we grow, we need to make sure that we're being recognized for that growth. And so, whether you have to use a bargaining chip or not, a lot of the time, as unfortunate as it is, when you move into a closing role, you're not compensated what you should be if you're moving into that closing role from a more junior role. In this case, from an SDR to an AE. Like, full transparency, like what I get paid as a base is significantly less than what a fresh AE coming into the company would get paid. And so you got to use that leverage to just make sure that it's the right fit still, right? Like if you're, if you're bringing in millions of dollars in revenue and still getting paid what you were paid as an SDR, that's completely, that's a bit off.
It's an interesting balance, because I'm in the same boat that I know that if I wanted to shop around, it's you can make more money, but there are intangibles out there.
There's so many intangibles.
Like, I am
freedom, flexibility. Like, you go to a new company, you're onboarding, you're learning new products and new services and a new team.
And that's where they got you, man. They're holding you like on this little dangling string, man. They know that they got you just right. I mean, that's the whole. It's employee to employee relationship is just like a sales relationship.
Dude,
it's all cute. About meeting in the middle, paying you just enough to like where you're not gonna try to look for anything else.
You ever tried to negotiate a salary with your sales manager? So weird, man.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, let me bring you onto a sales call to help you with negotiation, but then let me also negotiate my salary with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun dynamic for sure. But that's what we're left to figure out here in the sales world. No, man, that's awesome. But I am curious, as I'm sure our other members, what did a day to day look like for you starting as an account executive, and what does a day to day look like for you now if it's different?
So starting it was a lot of following directions, training, going through every module that was provided for me, learning the deal methodology, learning things, this, that, the other, which to this day, like, I'm sure it helped, but
is deal, is that a ZoomInfo thing, or is that like a common known thing?
Yeah, it's a ZoomInfo thing.
So discover, educate, align, lock.
That's right.
I learned that too.
Yeah.
I know my stuff. I just didn't apply it.
There's so many methodologies out there, man. They just figure out what works best for their product. It was about learning that, as a junior AE, it's all about establishing the fact that you're able and willing to do whatever it takes to win. I hate to send out the message that like being average is okay, because you have to be above average to finally be average. Right? Like,
interesting concept.
Like, you can't get to the point where you can be just relatively average unless you're above average and prove that you can be above average. But once you can maintain that and know when it's required, think about it this way. Like, I know when it's required of me to push, and I know that I can push and get to where I need to be when that requirement is necessary. Right. Otherwise, I can just be average. I can make the phone calls that I need to make. we're in a luxurious position because we get inbound demos. If we were more of a full cycle sales rep, this wouldn't be necessarily applicable. But yeah, the point that I realized that it was okay to be average was just like when you were constantly hitting above quota, and doing way more than was necessary. You just kind of dial that back. You just find the balance.
Yeah, I think for some point, my fulfillment came from exceeding.
Yeah.
Like that's when I knew, not even just fulfillment, but like my identity came from like, I'm an exceeder, I'm an overachiever. I put my 100%.
You can do it.
I can do it. Yeah. And at some point, I just kind of realized like, that's great and all, but like, that's not who I am as a person. My job does not define me as a person. And as much as I want to do a great job and do good work, that does not, being good at my job does not make me a good person.
You have to recognize that your job is not your life.
Right.
And that there's a requirement of your job, and that is it. That the requirement is what you are required to do. Like it's very point blank.
Right.
You have a job to do. You do that job. There are so many other cultures and countries that they really focus on that work-life balance. And there's enough work to go around. There's enough people to generate the money that needs to be generated. And at the end of the day, you have to recognize when it is more of a corporate drive to generate more revenue.
Yes.
Like everybody wants to make more money, sure, but everybody also wants to live. And so as a worker, you have to know when you're doing enough to sustain your role.
Yes.
There's a balance. And once you exceed that balance, that's when you start sacrificing work life.
Yeah, and I think it largely depends on what your goals are. Because when we were SDRs, we were 100% exceeding that. Like what we were making was a lot less than the value we were bringing to the company. But it's because that was our goal. We were trying to prove that we were worth so much more so we can get that next promotion, that next step, and move into that role.
Very good point.
It depends on what matters to you.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're trying to, rise up the ranks and get into management or become an exec, whatever that is, if it's important to you to keep proving your value to the company and keep rising the corporate ladder, by all means, you have to overachieve. You have to put in more than what you're paid for to get to that next level. But if that's not your goal, then we're in that unique position, like you said, where we have the luxury of kind of defining where we want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you think about like the little overhead respectively that it takes to get to that position. Like if you're in a junior role and you just have to work an extra hour or two or maybe even 3 per day, like to get to a place that it's compounding. Like every
100%.
role that you hit is then going to exponentiate the roles that you can land in the future.
Yeah.
And so the amount of effort that you can put up front to show that you're willing to do it. Like that's what degrees are, right? Degrees are essentially proof that you're willing to put in that effort and energy to research or learn or whatever. It's the same thing in any other career path. Like you don't need like a college degree just gets you the job. A college degree doesn't help you excel at the job. You can be the smartest person in the college, but if you don't have the capacity to grow and to learn and be creative, 100%. You're going to fail on the spot.
Yeah, mindset. Like you said in the beginning, it's all about the intangibles. It's all about the mindset that companies look for nowadays, because skills can be taught.
Yep.
Contrary to what college tells you, like you can learn Word by looking up a YouTube video instead of taking a semester-long class on Word.
Yes, dude. Yes. And then what? Like, You think about the YouTube scenario, like you know way more than if you just took a college course.
Yes.
Uh,
And that's what people look for, is for that mentality. So,
interviewing is a big skill if you think about it.
yeah.
Like interviewing and actually getting the job. That is the challenge. Like if you think about why people go to school, why people get degrees, why people study, so they can get jobs. When they get the job, they suck a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people, even if they don't have the experience, the education, like they do really good because they were given the chance. They were given that job. There's people that don't have a formal education or a formal background that are able to do so good.
You don't have a degree, do you?
I don't have a degree.
I don't have a degree.
I have a associate's degree.
I was gonna relate with you for a second.
No, like I'm literally like I'm at this point, and they're probably negated, but I'm like I think 6 courses away from like getting a degree, but
I think I was like 20 credits away.
yeah, it was just about the same. Like I just don't.
Why?
No reason.
Yeah, exactly.
I did all of it, and I was like, eventually, I'm just going through the ropes just to go through college.
100. I still get crap from my family about it to this day.
No, but like my parents were the same way. Like my mom saved up her entire life for me to go to college.
Yeah.
Cost free. Like she paid for everything. I still pulled out college loans because it's just not necessary. Yeah, I don't think there's more to be said. I think it's just you know, if you're in the position where it's like I'm in this like sort of entry role, or maybe I'm looking at an entry role and I don't necessarily know where to go or how I'm going to get there, like just put in the hard work, communicate where you want to be, what's necessary to get there. And if you're at a good company, they're going to tell you exactly what needs to happen.
Get there, yeah.
And if you're not at a good company, you'll get very vague responses, much like you got when you were, at your banking company, and you'll get pushed along. But it's important to stand up and say, 6-8 months in, this is what I've done. This is the benefit. This is what I'd like. And if I haven't gotten it, why not? What do I need to do to get it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, going up through the ranks, it was always just, what can I do that other people aren't doing? And I think that's the easiest way to move up.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're doing the positive things that other people aren't doing. So if people are putting in 8-hour days, you put in 10-hour days. If people are not working weekends, you work weekends. Like, it's as simple as that. And I think both you and I, if you said today, hey, screw all this life stuff that we're living, let's just focus on our career. If we both started putting in more hours and putting more effort into where we're at and exceeding what our expectations are, we could easily move into the next positions.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's just a matter of figuring out what the balance, the work-life balance, right?
Yeah. I like now that I've got a 4-month-old in my life, I have to think about what I can do to enhance his quality of life.
Yes.
Like, do I want more money or do I want more trees? Like, do I want more quality of life? Do I want more animals for him to experience? Do I want more skills that I can teach him? These are all sacrifices that I would have to make to make more money. And so what we're doing on our farm, or Raluna Farm, what we're trying to do is just build out, an experience for our kids and ourselves where we can live off, where like we don't want to quit the corporate world. Like, I don't want to separate from, making money and farm and sell produce and all this stuff, because that's not that doesn't seem like a sustainable, enjoyable life to me. That seems very hard. It seems hard to sustain a family off of like a farm, like off of produce, off of livestock. But what I want to do is I want to be able to work an okay amount of time to then be able to have my child go walk through my garden and where we can eat like 70 to 80% of the time, around the year round throughout our garden, and where we can just go out and where we can have great experiences and do all this stuff without having to, be at work for 75% of our life.
Yes. You guys are getting there.
We're getting there, man.
I mean, obviously we were talking about this before. It's been like 7 months since I've been out there, but you guys are getting there. And from what you've told me, you guys are just getting started, which is awesome. Was Roluna Farm, was that a goal of yours for a long time?
Always been a goal. Yeah, like when Sophie and I met, one of the things that we talked about first and foremost was like, we both want a place to call our own. We want a lot of land. We want to be able to rescue animals. We want to be able to just do whatever we want, right? Like, we don't want to be restricted by codes. We don't want to be restricted by HOA. We don't want to be restricted by what we can and can't do because we don't have the land, or, because we can't do it because of our time, because we've got way too much work on our plate. Like, that's the entire goal, is to do what's necessary to sustain the lifestyle that we want to live, which is being outside, which is being with our family, which is having fun and playing games. And like, we want to put together, like, we want to put a soccer goal. We want to put a basketball court on our property. Like, we just want to make it a place where we can just do all these things together with our community and have fun.
I mean, I'll be there every weekend.
Let's go, man. We're going to put together a pickleball court.
Hey, you have me at basketball, but pickleball, bro. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. Like, all of those things. That's what life is about. Life is about living, not working.
Yes.
But if you were to ask Americans what the main part of their life was, the majority of them, a vast majority in my mind, would say it's work.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask someone, hey, who are you? Like, I feel like 90% of the time, I'm a doctor.
What do you do?
I'm a lawyer.
What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? Yeah, that's the question. What do you do? It's not living. It's...
What do I do? I farm. I spend time with my family.
Yeah.
Like, I think about things that we can do to live.
Yeah.
So, and like, that's another thing too. Is like, I want to be able, like, I love the idea of self-sustainability. I love the idea of, you could fire me tomorrow because I am a paraplegic, whatever. Like, you could fire me tomorrow for whatever reason, and we could still sustain ourselves. We could live off of our produce. We can live off of the dairy from our farm. Like, that's what I want to be able to do. To be able to sustain my family and ourselves and have the community to do that.
So is the goal then to eventually not work and just do that full time?
It's hard because, you weigh the costs and sacrifices, and there's no doubt that like, you cannot make 6 figures net on a farm easily. Like, you could gross 300-400K on a 4 or 5 acre farm, growing a ton of produce, lettuce bags, carrots, a lot of really high quality produce, but it's a lot of work. You have to manage a lot of people. You have to pay them salaries. You have to pay for packing, shipping. There's a lot of overhead that goes into making that gross that cuts into your net. I'm not a software company at Reluna Farm, right? I don't think the goal is to sustain ourselves off of that, like without the cushion. The goal is to progress as much as possible in the career that I'm in right now until I can sustainably move into the modality where I'm growing my own produce. We're going out, we're taking care of the goats, the cows, the chickens. We're then going and taking care of the garden, right? Like we're improving the house. We're doing all these projects while also knowing that if some sort of hardship hit us, we still have that fallback from a cash perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's in like we've got a good amount of investment in the stock market. God bless us, because the stock market is
It's been a rough year.
It's been a rough year in 2022.
Last 4 months.
It's been a rough period in general for a while.
Yes.
But yeah, eventually, like, timing the market, not timing the market, right? So just like, making sure that we pick the right investments, that we don't get too fearful during times of uncertainty like now, and that we stick to it. And I think we're a strategic family, and so we've made good decisions, and we'll continue to make good decisions maybe 10, 15 years in the future. I think that retirement will come early for us. And we'll be able to, live with our adolescents and teenagers while not having to dedicate too much time to work.
Once you guys retire, I'll just come work on the farm.
Dude, please. come. I don't know if we told you yet, but my mom and my stepdad, we've been strategizing about how to pitch our neighbor and buying her like back half of land.
Yeah.
So that we can continue to build a couple houses, like build like some guest houses back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of land. You've seen all the land behind us.
Yeah.
And so the goal is to kind of acquire some of that land and then build some guest houses, a couple guest houses.
Okay. I'll take one.
You can visit.
That was a good deflection. No, man, that's awesome. This, like, my last two podcasts, it has been the theme of just starting to think about your goals in terms of not where your career's goals are, but what your life goals are, and then finding the career or the opportunity that gets you that. Like the example I brought up last time was like, look, if you want a life that's flexible and gives you choices and opportunities to do the things you're passionate about, you're probably not going to be a lawyer or be a doctor. Like those careers, they take to your life, like they encompass your life, and you have to be passionate about those things if you want to be happy in those careers. And I think we're both in a unique position where we can start to have passions and pursue passions outside of work. And I think that's a really cool place to be in.
It's a very lucky position.
Lucky is the word. Yeah. I would
not to discount the amount of hard work that it takes, but there is an element of luck into landing the perfect fit. Like the perfect fit for what you want to do from a career perspective. If you can fit into your company or your own, like whether you're working for a public company or your own, if you're a founder,
you
should consider yourself very lucky when you have the opportunity to step away, like from like where you're not completely focused on what you're doing for work, and you can find that balance to step away and go and do your life and feel like my contribution is adequate.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely times and weeks and days and months where that varies, and I have to, I have to put in more effort into my job, and I have to put more focus and dedication. I'm just grateful that it's not 100% of the time. So, I think I already know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway. Like we've heard about your story and about kind of what's made you successful. I guess if there's one lesson you learned, or there's one takeaway you would leave for folks that are just getting started or just considering getting started down this career path, what would it be?
I think you should always strive to just be honest with yourself, what you want to achieve. And there's sacrifices. There's always going to be sacrifices to be made. Like you're going to have to give up something to get something.
Yes.
But you have to know what it is you want to justify what it is you have to give up.
Oof.
So
there's the headline.
Yeah, that's it. You
gotta know what can you repeat that one more time?
You gotta know what you want to know what you're gonna have to give up.
Yeah.
So, there's always gonna be sacrifices to be made. You're gonna have to work hard. But that sacrifice, that hard work, it's an exchange for something. It's always an exchange.
It's always an exchange.
What you do is always going to be in exchange for something, whether it's time, whether it's effort, whether it's energy, whether it's love. Most importantly, you should strive to put as much love into anything that you do. So, that's always going to be a struggle for me because, quite frankly, I don't love convincing people how to sell or run their businesses. That's what we do at the end of the day, is we convince people how to sell their business. But that love translates into other ways. Like I'm able to love more of my family, and I'm able to love the environment more, and I'm able to love my days after work because of the effort and energy that I have put into, the prereqs, I guess.
The prereqs. I like that. I think it's always a sacrifice. Even now, it's a sacrifice of, hey, do I want to spend every living and waking moment of my life thinking about my work so I can make more money? Or do I want to sacrifice that to think about my life and love my family and, love my future?
Yeah.
It's always a sacrifice. It's just a matter of what exactly you're wanting to sacrifice and what you're putting as your number one and as your priorities and values in life.
Yep. I frequently go out and I just stare up at the stars.
Yeah.
I'm a big guy. I love space. I love stars. I love planets, the entire celestial, just the celestial collection in general. And, you look up and you see how wondrous it all is. And you just, it minimizes every problem that you've got going on. I guess it just kind of puts into perspective the gains that you get, day after day after day. If, you put in so much work, but then you're finally able to go out and you can go camping with your family, or you can go take this vacation, or you can go experience the world in this one way or the other. And it's all because just for these few months, you put in the extra work where you could have just gone home and sat back and just done nothing. Right?
Yeah.
It's just about, and you never look back and say, oh my gosh, I put in all that effort and I just wish I just played video games or just sat back and watched the movie. But you look back and say, Like, I can't believe I put in all that effort and energy and it's finally paying off. Like, I'm finally able to realize all these dreams. I'm finally able to purchase this beautiful house. Like, look at this thing, dude.
Yeah, you got a beautiful house, man.
No, dude. Did you ever imagine when we sat in that first room together? When we sat in that room together, Alex.
Don't ask me this question, man. You're going to make me emotional.
When you looked at my watch, like, did you ever think that this was where we would be in 2 years? Like, sitting together, like this equipment, this is beautiful equipment. This house, it's beautiful. Like, did you ever think that this is where we would be? And it's because you put in that hard work.
No, I think about those Saturday mornings when we were inbound SDRs and I volunteered for a Saturday.
I still volunteer for Saturdays.
I think about how reluctant I was like to wake up at 7 a.m. to field inbound demos. And if I could just go back and tell myself, like, dude, just shut up. Like, shut up, dude. Don't worry about it. Like, this will pay off. But back then it was just blind faith of like, I think something will happen. Like, I think hard work will. It was a new company for us.
Yeah.
I think hard work will pay off. I think so.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do it. And it did.
Hard work had to pay off. I didn't even think about failure.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about failure. I didn't even think about what if I didn't succeed. That was not a question. It was like,
yeah.
And that's kind of weird thinking about now. I don't know if I've ever thought about that.
Yeah.
That it's like, there was never a question of like, what if this doesn't work? It will work and you will make it work. If that's your mindset, you can go anywhere. If your mindset, like, you can create anything as a human. Think about it. Anything that's been created in reality right now has been created because we've thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking and realizing and putting something into existence with your mind is the absolute first step. You can't get anywhere unless you just do it, unless you think about it, unless you start. Like, now is the time to do it. Best time to plant a tree was yesterday, Alex. Literally.
Well, whose fault is it that you didn't bring me a tree, man? It's
yeah.
Dude, that's yeah. A lot of good insight here, man. I think anyone that's, I mean, not even in sales, but anyone that's trying to get going in any career, I think this is really good advice. So, Brad, thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom as always.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll have more of this to come.
I hope we do.
Perhaps even soon. Anyways, thanks everybody. Thanks, Brad, and we will see you all soon.